We are back on MorningLine. Thanks for joining us, talking with elder care expert extraordinaire, Barbara McGinnis. Nice to have you on, ma'am. Thanks for coming on. The number's up, 737-7587. If you have a question or a comment, I know many of the viewers are veterans or know people that are veterans.
Right.
So there's rule changes. Now, is this going to affect the monies some of these veterans out there are collecting right now?
No.
Okay, it won't.
No.
All right, let's clarify that.
So if you're currently receiving either compensation, disability,
right,
or what we call aid and attendance, the pension, it's not going to affect you. But starting October 18th, so this month, later this month, big rule changes are going into effect. VA, when you're applying for the pension or the aid and attendance part of the pension, we call it non-service connected. It's because now you're disabled, but it doesn't really have anything to do with your service time.
Gotcha.
If it had something to do with your service time, you'd be collecting compensation. All right, so for the first time ever now, there's going to be a 36-month look back. So they're going to look back the last 3 years to see what you did with your money, and if you gave away money, or if you converted assets to a trust or to an annuity in the effort to reduce your net worth so you'd qualify, you could have a penalty. And the penalty is going to be up to a maximum of 5 years. So pre-planning, if you think you meet the technical requirements, wartime service, at least 1 day, honorable or less than dishonorable discharge, if you had active duty for 90 days or better. And so if you meet these technical requirements and you anticipate aid and attendance being in your future, you really might want to start pre-planning. You have to think about it ahead of time.
Like how far ahead? Outside?
I'd say at least 3 years ahead of time.
3 years ahead. And the idea is being that 3 years, they're kind of closing a little loophole. People see this coming. To qualify, I have to have this much money, so I'm going to give money to my loved one, and that won't be on the books, which I always thought was kind of sketchy anyway, that they would be able to do that, because these were their assets. They're finding a way to hide them so they can collect a benefit. So they're closing that loophole now. So
that's one thing.
All right,
that's
you need to plan ahead of time. All right.
So that's one rule that's changing. 36-month look back with a potential penalty for certain transfers.
Okay.
There's going to be a 2-acre homestead limit. So think about veterans who are perhaps farmers or ranchers, or they just live out in the suburbs and they have 5-acre lots.
Yeah.
They're going to be indefinitely limited to receive benefits because their property is over 2 acres. Those folks need to plan ahead.
Holy cow. So again, this is not affecting folks who are getting it now. They're grandfathered in. But the new laws will be if you're applying for a veteran benefit that you qualify for, but you happen to have a house that you've owned for years on 3 acres of land, which isn't huge, but it's that shuts you down because
by the current rules. I mean by these new rules that are going to go into effect in October.
This could affect millions of people nationwide.
Yeah. So then the countable net worth. Okay, so now here's a good thing.
All right.
Countable net worth test. So it used to be this 80,000 limit was kind of a myth, but kind of true. And there was a factor in for life expectancy. I mean, literally the VA rule was, did you have enough resources to reasonably expect to live and pay for your care for the rest of your life? So there was a life expectancy factor. They're doing away with the life expectancy factor. It will be a bright line rule, $123,000 of countable money, and most money will be countable. It does not include your house. So you can have a house, 2 acres, and $123,000 and qualify.
$123,000 like in your bank accounts?
Yes.
Or not? What, is that counting investments, 401ks,
yes.
Everything?
Everything. And it's household. So if you're married, so it's not just yours, it's your spouse's also.
So combined. But the bottom line, even though that may be something that you view as a little more positive, what they're doing is they're tightening it up, is what they're doing. Well, this is going to eliminate a lot of people that would have qualified.
There's at least a nice definition. You know what you're working towards. There's a formula for how you would add money in the bank, so your net worth, not count your house, net worth, plus your annualized income, and then you subtract your unreimbursed medical expenses.
Okay, see, and it is complex. I guess the bottom line on this, from your perspective, is, all right, they're going back 3 years. So if you're anticipating this and you're a veteran, you've got to get with someone like your team to start planning ahead of time, 3 years ahead of time. The problem is proactive, people being proactive. In society in general, we react, we're not proactive. And then you get in it, you have to plan.
There's a lot of people that their plan is, we're going to hope for the best.
Yes. And that's, count me in that in some things, you know?
Yeah. So
it's not the best way to go.
Hoping for the best is always a good thing.
Yeah.
But you still have to plan for what's reasonable and likely to happen.
Yeah, reality is still going to hit you in the face no matter how hard you hope.
Yeah.
All right, as far as wills are concerned, I just wanted to get to this because a lot of people dealing with it. And do you have a will written up? Do you know, does your loved one have a will written up? What, if you would, and you see a lot of this, what would you say, Barbara, is some of the biggest mistakes maybe people do when they approach a will? If there are some biggies that jump out at you and you'll look.
Oh, sure, there are. A lot of times people think that if they have a will, they're going to avoid probate, that the will, you know, mama's written out will is going to dictate what's going to happen to her assets at death, and we don't have to go to court.
And a probate court, again, we've explained to folks what the probate court is. It's
probate court.
Go ahead. I mean, I know too, but go ahead.
Probate court is, well, it's where you go with your will, and the judge determines that it's a valid will and that the executor or personal representative named in the will is basically pledging that they will execute the will in a manner that's in keeping with the terms of the will, right?
But so how do you avoid probate then? Because, I mean, in probate, sometimes when there is no will, they have to go in there and deal with that, or if a will is being contested, okay? But there are ways, if you have a properly done will, as I'm sure your team does, I mean, you can avoid probate, which saves money and keeps money out of the pockets of other folks and keeps it in the family.
Well, sometimes it really comes down to the assets that someone has and how do they hold title to those assets. So a bank account you may own with your wife. So at your death, it's still hers, and she doesn't have to probate your will to get access to that bank account. So sometimes it comes down to how assets are titled and whether or not you still have access to that.
So if I have a separate account and she has a separate account and she were to pass and we don't have a will written out, then I'm going to have to go to probate to get this. Now, as her husband, I'm going to get everything she leaves behind unless she says otherwise, right?
Yes, but she could avoid that also by maybe having a payable on death designation on her bank account. Like if she knows she wants it to go to you, or if she knows she wants it to go to a revocable trust that you've never gotten around to fund or something like that. Well, so she can designate at the bank where those assets would be. It's a bank's way of having a beneficiary designation. Think of it like that.
Yeah.
So life insurance passed by beneficiary designation. IRAs and 401ks are going to pass by beneficiary designation as well. Have a primary and a secondary. You know, so your primary beneficiary and a contingency just in case your primary beneficiary dies in the same car wreck with you. But some other will issues, people think that that in the will they have to list every little personal item. We don't really like for people to list their personal property, their tangible personal property, in an item by item inventory in the will document. We like a written memorandum attached to it.
Oh, okay.
Because if you change your stuff or you change your mind, you don't want to have to run back to the attorney's office, and you also don't want to be scribbling all over your will.
Okay, so what would be in the will then? It's more general then?
Yeah, it may be a general statement like all of my tangible property to my children in equal shares.
Okay, and then you can break it down with a separate thing saying Billy gets the car, Judy gets the motorcycle, or China cabinet.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe some other things would be like, I have 3 children, but I only want 2 of them to get the money.
Okay.
So we have to find out, well, why is that?
Okay, you do have to find, that's interesting. So what do? You just
say, well, my 3rd child has a disability, they're on TennCare. You know, and I don't want them to inherit money because then it's going to kick them off TennCare. Well, if you're in the right law office, or you're not trying to do it on, you know, like some sort of online yourself, you can create a special needs trust for that child with disability or a spouse or whomever inside the will to hold their share of the estate. They don't have to be disinherited just because they're receiving public benefits. Their testamentary special needs trust could hold that asset. So again, back to the more complicated estate planning and thinking, not knowing what you don't know. You know, you don't know those things exist until you ask the right person.
Right.
That it's an option. Or, I know what you were thinking a minute ago.
Yeah, it was I don't like them.
I don't like that third child anymore. They don't come visit me anymore, and I don't want them to benefit.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
So we still acknowledge them in the will. We still name them, say, I have these 3 children. It proves that you haven't forgotten who your natural heirs are. But I leave my assets to child A and B 50-50 in equal shares, and child C or 3 is to receive nothing from my estate.
Yeah.
You don't leave them $1, you don't leave them $100, you just say, I know you're my child, and I intentionally am omitting you for my will.
Okay, and you just let that, and that's it. That's all you have. Let's take a call from John before we go to the break. That's interesting. John, go ahead. Are you there, John?
Yes, I am.
Hey, how can we help you, sir?
Well, it's like this. I am 75 years old. My wife is 75 years old, and we on Social Security and what little retirement we get from the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. How in the heck they expect me and her to live and stay alive? I want to know that question. I don't care who answers it. If I agree with you, I'll agree with you. If I don't, I'm going to tell you I don't.
Oh, wait, let me ask you this. Yeah, you're saying you don't know how they expect you to live on what you're getting. I'm just curious, how much money do you get a month?
Well, that's my business.
Well, I mean, it's hard for me to tell. I mean, without knowing how much you are, how am I supposed to know whether I should expect you to live on it?
That's my business, how much I get. That's why everybody wants to know how much I get.
Well, I'm just wondering, you're saying it's not enough to live on, though, right?
That's right. It's not enough to live on.
Okay, and do you have property also?
Well, the house is about paid for.
Oh, okay.
We went to that Fannie Mae and Fannie Doe and Fannie Bo and Fannie, all that other good garbage.
I'm with you. Okay, yeah, I hear you. Listen, he's not alone. There's a lot of people, and he doesn't have to tell me how much it is, but I imagine it's a piddling. I mean, if you're living on Social Security, I don't care. It's a struggle. If that's all you have, and then if he's just getting a little retirement from a pension that he had, I got to imagine it's less than $3,000 a month for sure. So
it's cobbling together benefits.
Yeah.
There is a benefits.gov, government benefits checkup, benefitscheckup.gov. And that will kind of help direct you to what potential benefits you're eligible for.
So you're saying there's people like him that may be eligible for benefits that they're not aware of?
It's possible, yeah. Okay. And again, it's cobbling together benefits. Probably not one thing is going to make a huge difference in his life, but maybe if there's 2 or 3 little things, it might give him some relief.
Okay.
Like property tax relief.
Property tax relief?
Depending on your county, you go to your county tax assessor's office to see if you're eligible for tax relief or tax freeze.
Maybe some type of veterans. Hang on, because I want to go down the list of what those are that he can maybe consider, because I sympathize with his situation. He's not alone. We'll take a break, come back, and continue answering that question with what other possibilities are out there to cobble together. Maybe take a few more phone calls in our final segment right after this.
All right.